Commander Zexthalak walked slowly through the wide hallways of the Vraxian Military Academy. His forearms moved in perfect balance, but his steps lacked their usual confidence. The metals on his chest clinked softly with each step. Students and teachers stopped to stare as he passed. Some saluted. Others whispered excitedly to each other. "That's him," one young cadet said, "the hero of the Orion campaign. I heard he destroyed 3 enemy fleets by himself," another added. Zexthalak ignored them all. Once the admiration would have pleased him. Now it felt hollow. They didn't know what real war was like. They hadn't seen what he had seen. The Academy's main hall was packed with cadets. 500 young Vraxians sat in perfect rows, their blue skin shining under the bright lights. Their excitement filled the room like electricity. They had been waiting for this moment for months. Academy Director Vrel stood at the front of the room. Her voice boomed through the speakers. "Today we have the highest honor. Commander Zexthalak, decorated veteran of 4 successful campaigns and holder of the Imperial Star, will share his wisdom with you." The room erupted in applause. Zexthalak stepped onto the stage. He looked at the sea of eager young faces. They wanted tales of glory and victory. They wanted to hear how the mighty Vraxian Empire had conquered yet another inferior species. "Silence," Director Vrel commanded, and the room instantly fell quiet. Zexthalak adjusted the speaking device on his neck. He hadn't prepared formal remarks. He didn't need to. The memories that kept him awake at night were always ready, always waiting. "Young warriors," he began, his voice rough. "You have studied battle strategies. You have memorized the strengths and weaknesses of 50 different species. You believe you are prepared for war?" He paused and looked across the room. Every eye was on him. Every antenna was pointed forward in attention. "You are not prepared." A ripple of surprise moved through the crowd. This was not how inspirational speeches from war heroes usually began. "I have fought the Krell with their acid weapons. I have battled the 6-legged Dovin who can survive in vacuum. I have outsmarted the telepathic Minori." Zexthalak touched one of his medals. "Each victory earned me recognition. Each battle made sense. The enemy behaved as expected. We were stronger. We won." The cadets nodded. This was what they had been taught. Then we found Earth. The room grew, even quieter. Some of the older teachers shifted uncomfortably in their seats. A blue planet, mostly water. One dominant species, humans. Zexthalak's upper arms trembled slightly. Technologically inferior, physically unremarkable, politically divided. According to our assessments, an easy conquest. He walked to the edge of the stage. We were wrong. A cadet in the front row raised her hand. "Commander, we haven't studied humans in our tactical classes." "No, you haven't," Zexthalak replied, "because the Imperial Education Committee decided the details would be unhelpful to your development." The cadets looked at each other in confusion. "Today, I will ignore those guidelines. Today I will tell you the truth about the species that nearly broke our mighty fleet. The species that made me question everything I knew about warfare." Director Vrel stepped forward. "Commander, perhaps we should stick to approved." "They need to know," Zexthalak interrupted. "If they go out there thinking all enemies are the same, they will die." The director's skin darkened with emotion. Zexthalak moved to the center of the stage. The bright lights made his blue skin look pale. He pressed a button on his wrist device. A large image of Earth appeared behind him, floating in the air. 5 cycles ago, our scout ships found this planet. Our scanners detected valuable minerals and rare elements. The Emperor ordered a standard expansion mission. Zexthalak's 4 eyes blinked slowly. "I was second commander of the fleet." The image changed to show a small space station orbiting Earth. "We spotted this human outpost first, a scientific research station, primitive technology. Only 20 humans inside." Zexthalak's voice grew softer. Fleet Commander Draz ordered its destruction as a show of force. "Standard procedure." A cadet raised her hand. "To show the humans our power." "Yes," Zexthalak nodded. We expected them to surrender immediately after seeing their station destroyed. No species had ever continued fighting after such a demonstration. The image showed a Vraxian warship firing on the station. The explosion was small but complete. What we didn't know was that the humans were broadcasting everything. Their whole planet watched as we destroyed their outpost. Zexthalak's upper arms crossed over his chest. Their response was unexpected. The image changed again. A small, sleek human spacecraft appeared. This ship approached our fleet 12 hours later. It was called Defiance. Its captain was a human female named Lisa Wright. Zexthalak touched the image with one of his lower hands. We laughed when we saw it. One tiny ship against our fleet of 30 warships. The cadets smiled. Some chuckled. They understood the absurdity. Commander Draz opened communication channels. He demanded Earth surrender. Zexthalak paused. Captain Wright's response was brief. She said, "This is for the 20. Then she did something no rational being would do. The image showed the human ship accelerating directly toward the largest Vraxian vessel. She aimed her ship at our command carrier and accelerated to maximum speed. Zexthalak's voice trembled slightly. Our weapons hit her ship, but she didn't change course. She didn't try to escape. The cadets watched as the small human ship crashed into the massive Vraxian carrier. A huge explosion followed. The human ship was carrying experimental fusion bombs. The explosion destroyed our command carrier completely. 5,000 Vraxian warriors died instantly. Zexthalak closed his eyes for a moment. Commander Draz was among them. Shocked murmurs spread through the hall. Director Vrel's skin darkened with emotion. One human ship. One human captain. One decision. Zexthalak looked at the cadets' faces. Captain Wright died in the explosion. But her action changed everything. What should have been a simple conquest became a war. A male cadet stood up. But, Commander, surely after losing their captain, the humans surrendered. Zexthalak made a strange sound. The cadets realized he was laughing, but there was no joy in it. Surrender? No, young one. The humans launched every space vessel they had. Hundreds of small ships attacked our fleet. Most were destroyed, but they damaged 7 of our warships. The image changed to show Earth's cities lighting up at night. Then, the humans did something else we didn't expect. They united. They're divided. Nations formed a single defense force overnight. They shared technology, resources, and weapons. Zexthalak gestured with all 4 arms. They named this alliance after their fallen captain, the Right Defense Initiative. Another image appeared. Human factories working at full speed, weapons being built, soldiers training. We thought destroying their space station would frighten them. Instead, it made them angry. Zexthalak's voice dropped lower. We thought they would be easy to conquer because they were always fighting each other. We didn't understand that this made them better at war, not worse. The cadets were silent now. No one was smiling anymore. We expected a simple mission. Instead, we faced a species that didn't behave like any we had encountered before. Zexthalak looked at each section of cadets. A species willing to die, rather, than surrender. A species that turned grief into rage and rage into weapons. Director Vrel stepped forward. And this was just the beginning? Yes, Zexthalak said. Just the beginning. But she stepped back and nodded. Zexthalak faced the cadets. Again, humans look weak. They have no claws, no armor, no natural weapons. They have only 2 arms. Their technology is centuries behind ours. His voice dropped lower. And yet, they are the most terrifying enemy I have ever faced. The room was completely silent now. 500 cadets leaned forward, suddenly aware that they were about to hear something important, something real. Let me tell you about Earth, Zexthalak said. Let me tell you about humans. The cadets shifted in their seats. Their earlier excitement had turned to unease. Zexthalak noticed this and nodded slowly. You wonder how a technologically inferior species could challenge the Vraxian Empire, he said. I asked myself the same question many times during the war. He pressed another button on his wrist device. The image changed to show a human male with dark hair and light skin. This is Kyle Peterson, a human engineer we captured during an attack on one of our forward bases. Zexathalak pointed to the image. Nothing special about him. Average size, average strength, no military training. He worked on civilian spacecraft before the war. The cadets studied the image with new interest. We placed him in a standard holding cell. As protocol requires, we removed all items he could use as weapons. Zexathalak's 4 eyes narrowed. 3 days later, our main weapon system failed during a battle. Director Vrel stepped forward. How is this related to the human prisoner? We discovered that Peterson had created a device that interfered with our energy distribution network. Zexathalak's voice contained a mix of anger and respect. He built it using only the waste materials from his food containers and the cleaning solution we provided for his cell. Shocked whispers spread through the hall. But how did he understand our technology? A female cadet asked. Our systems are based on principles humans hadn't discovered yet. That, Zexathalak said, is what makes humans so dangerous. They adapt. They learn at an incredible speed. He touched his chest where his medals hung. Peterson watched the guards operate the cell door for only 2 days. From those brief observations, he figured out basic principles of our technology. The image changed to show diagrams of the device Peterson had built. When we questioned him, he seemed surprised by our confusion. He said, I'm an engineer. I solve problems, that's what we do. Zexathalak made a gesture of frustration with his upper arms, as if understanding alien technology in days was normal. A cadet in the back stood up. But Commander, we are taught that each species has its specialty. The Krell have their acid weapons. The Dovan can survive in vacuum. What is the human specialty? That he is precisely what makes them dangerous, Zexathalak replied. Most species specialize. Humans are generalists. They adapt to any situation. They learn anything they need to survive. He showed a new image. Human soldiers wearing pieces of captured Vraxian armor, modified to fit their bodies. Look at this. Within weeks of our first battles, they were using our own technology against us. They took damaged equipment, studied it, and repurposed it. Zexathalak shook his head. Our scientists take years to understand new technology. Humans do it in weeks, sometimes days. Another image appeared. A human settlement built in a harsh desert environment. Humans have lived in every environment on their planet. Frozen wastelands, burning deserts, dense jungles, ocean platforms. Zexathalak gestured to the image. This adaptability extends to everything they do. He walked closer to the edge of the stage. When we destroyed their satellites, they created new communication networks overnight. When we jammed their frequencies, they developed new ones we couldn't track. When we used superior weapons, they didn't give up. They found weaknesses we didn't know existed. Director Vrel spoke up. This sounds like exaggeration, Commander. I wish it was, Zexathalak replied quietly. After Peterson damaged our weapon system, we increased security. We put him in isolation. We gave him nothing but nutrient paste in edible containers. He paused. 2 weeks later, he escaped. The cadets stared in disbelief. He had memorized the entire layout of our ship from the brief walk to the interrogation room. He had studied the guard rotation patterns. He had created a lock-breaking tool from the dried remains of his food containers. Zexathalak's skin darkened with the memory. He not only escaped, but sabotaged our engine cooling system on his way out. A heavy silence filled the room. One human. No weapons. No allies. No advanced. Zexathalak's voice grew quieter. The cadets leaned forward to hear him better. Even Director Vrel stood perfectly still, her antennae pointed toward the commander. 3 months into the war, our tactical leaders decided on a new approach, Zexathalak said. Instead of attacking from space, we would land forces directly, on Earth, show our physical superiority, establish ground control. The image behind him changed to show a map of Earth. A specific region was highlighted. We chose this area for our first major ground invasion. The humans called it Montana. It had low population density, Open spaces for our ships to land and minimal military presence. Zex pointed to the map. Our intelligence indicated it would be easy to control. A cadet near the front raised her hand. How many troops did we send, Commander? 5,000 elite warriors, the best ground forces in the Empire. Zex four arms tightened across his chest. They landed here, here, and here. He pointed to 3 locations on the map. The image changed to show Vraxian dropships landing in open fields covered with snow. The initial landing went exactly as planned. No resistance. Our forces established a perimeter and began to expand outward. Zex paused. For 6 hours, we believed the mission was succeeding. The cadets nodded. This was the Vraxian way. Efficient, methodical, successful. Then it started. Zex upper eyes blinked rapidly. Small attacks, not from military units, but from local humans. Civilians, farmers, shop owners, regular people. The image changed to show ordinary-looking humans carrying various weapons. They were led by this man, Alan Garcia, a former soldier who had returned to civilian life years before. Zex enlarged the image of a human male with weathered skin. Not a commander, not a current military officer, just a human who knew the land and had hunting experience. Director Vrel frowned. Civilians fighting our elite troops? That would be suicide. That's what we thought, Zex agreed. But these humans didn't fight like soldiers. They never engaged in direct battle. They used something called guerrilla tactics. The image changed to show a small explosion damaging a Vraxian vehicle, then humans quickly disappearing into nearby woods. Hit and run. Strike and disappear. They knew every hill, every tree, every hiding place. Zex shook his head slowly. And they had weapons, so many weapons. A cadet stood up. But Commander, you said this area had minimal military presence. It did, Zex replied. What we didn't understand was that human civilians owned weapons, personal weapons. In that region, almost every home had multiple firearms. The cadets looked confused. The concept was foreign to them. Garcia organized these civilians into small groups. They attacked our supply lines, destroyed our communication relays, and targeted our commanders. Zex voice became strained. By the end of the first day, we had lost 50 warriors. By the end of the first week, 500. Shocked murmurs filled the hall. Our forces tried to adapt. They established defensive positions. They sent out patrols. But the humans knew the terrain perfectly. They could move through forests silently. They could survive in the cold conditions that strained our troops. Zex gestured with his lower arms, and they used the changing weather against us. The image showed a Vraxian patrol struggling through deep snow, while human attackers moved quickly on strange devices attached to their feet. When our command center ordered reinforcements, Garcia's forces destroyed the landing sites before our ships arrived. Zex voice dropped even lower. After 3 weeks, we had lost half our ground forces. The mission commander ordered a retreat. Complete silence filled the room. The concept of a Vraxian retreat was almost unimaginable. The humans didn't just fight with soldiers, they fought with everyone. The old human who brought supplies might place explosives on the road an hour later. The young human who seemed harmless might be watching our movements and reporting back. Zex looked at the cadets' shocked faces. There was no front line, no clear enemy. Every human was a potential threat. Director Vrel stepped forward. This goes against everything we teach about warfare. Yes, Zex agreed. And that is why we were not prepared. We expected to fight an army. Instead, we fought a planet where every human considered it their personal duty to resist us. The youngest cadets looked at each other with new understanding in their eyes. The Montana incident changed our entire strategy, Zex concluded. We realized that occupying Earth would require more troops than the entire Empire could provide. Chronology. Zex let the words sink in. This is why humans terrified us, not because they were stronger or had better weapons, but because they refused to accept limitations. The youngest cadets in the front row looked confused and frightened. Remember this, Zex said. While we perfect one way of doing things, humans create 10 different approaches. While we follow protocols, humans improvise. This is why they survived our initial attacks. This is why a simple conquest turned into the longest war in recent imperial history. Zexathalak moved to a different spot on the stage. The cadets watched him closely. His movements were stiff, as if the memories caused him physical pain. After the Montana failure, we changed our approach again, Zexathalak explained. We decided to use long-range attacks only, no more ground forces. We would destroy key military targets from orbit where humans couldn't reach us. The image behind him showed Vraxian ships firing energy weapons at Earth's surface. It was working. Human defenses could not stop our orbital bombardment. We destroyed their military bases, their power stations, their communication centers. Zexathalak's forearms made a gesture of completion. Victory seemed certain. Director Vrel nodded. This is standard Imperial strategy. It has worked on dozens of worlds. Yes, Zexathalak agreed. But then something happened that we did not expect. The humans began to fight back with words. The cadets looked confused. A tall male in the third row raised his hand. Words, Commander? Not weapons? Words can be weapons, Zexathalak replied softly, especially when used by humans. He pressed a button on his wrist device. A human female appeared on the screen. She wore a simple uniform with a small badge that showed Earth. This is Lieutenant Samantha Doyle. She worked in something called military intelligence. Zexathalak studied the image. She created a message that was broadcast directly to our fleet. The commander hesitated, then pressed another button. A voice filled the hall. The voice was calm, steady, and chillingly confident. To the Vraxian Empire, we understand you now. We've studied your tactics, your technology, your biology. We know your weaknesses. We may lose this battle. We may even lose our planet. But know this, humanity will never surrender. If you destroy Earth, the survivors will rebuild. If you enslave us, we will rebel. If you scatter us across the stars, we will find each other, and we will find you. The voice paused. The hall was completely silent. You should know that before your ships arrived, humans spent thousands of years fighting each other. The weapons we created to kill our own kind will pale in comparison to what we will create for you. The hatred we had for our enemies will seem like love compared to what we feel for those who destroyed our home. Another pause. Some of the cadets were trembling. You have awakened something that would have been better left sleeping. Humanity, united, is more dangerous than you can imagine. We will pursue you across galaxies. We will find your homeworld. There will be no peace for the Vraxian Empire until justice is done. This is not a threat. This is a promise. The recording ended. The silence in the hall was absolute. This message was translated and broadcast across all our communication channels. Zexathalak said quietly, "We don't know how they accessed our systems. We don't know how they learned our language so quickly." He looked at the stunned faces of the cadets. What we do know is that after this message, 20% of our fleet personnel requested immediate transfer. 15 ships reported system failures that required them to return home. Zexathalak's skin darkened with emotion. Lieutenant Doyle's words caused more damage than any weapon. Director Vrel stepped forward. But surely our warriors weren't truly afraid of mere threats? It wasn't just the threat, Zexathalak explained. It was the confidence, the certainty in her voice. And it was the evidence we already had that humans would do exactly what they promised. He showed another image, human ships being built in hidden locations across Earth. After Lieutenant Doyle's message, our intelligence discovered that humans were already preparing for a long war. They were building ships designed specifically to pursue us if Earth fell. Zexathalak's voice grew strained. They called them vengeance vessels. The humans aboard would live their entire lives in space if necessary, traveling to Vraxia to exact revenge. A young cadet in the front row spoke up. But that's irrational. Why fight when your home is already lost? That, Zexathalak said, is the question that haunted our fleet commanders. Why would humans sacrifice everything for Zexathalak's hands? began to tremble slightly. He steadied himself before continuing. The cadets noticed this sign of distress from their war hero, and the room grew even quieter. 6 months into the war, our high command decided on a new strategy. Zexathalak said, "If we could not defeat humans on Earth, we would draw them out, force them to fight in space away from their home advantage." The image behind him changed to show a large moon orbiting a giant planet. The moon was covered in ice. This is Europa, a moon in Earth's solar system. Humans had established a small research base there. Zexathalak pointed to a tiny structure on the moon's surface. "We attacked and captured this base. We knew humans would try to take it back." Director Vrel nodded. "A trap." "Yes," Zexathalak agreed. "A perfect trap." The base was in an open area with no cover. The environment was hostile to humans. They needed special suits just to breathe. Our forces could see any approach from miles away. He showed an image of Vraxian defensive positions surrounding the human base. "We positioned 2,000 warriors there, the best combat units in our fleet. We had superior weapons, superior numbers, and the tactical advantage." Zexathalak's upper eyes blinked rapidly. Victory was certain. A cadet raised her hand. "Did the humans take the bait?" They did. A force of 500 human soldiers arrived, in 3 ships. Zexathalak showed their images. They were led by Commander Frank Weldon, a veteran of Earth's earlier wars. The cadets relaxed slightly. The numbers seemed clear. 2,000 Vraxians against 500 humans. With all advantages to the Vraxians, the battle began exactly as we planned. Our forces surrounded the humans, their casualties mounted quickly. Zexathalak's voice grew strained. By all tactical measures, they should have surrendered or retreated within hours. The image changed to show the battle. Vraxian warriors firing energy weapons, humans taking cover behind small barriers. But they didn't retreat. They didn't surrender. Zexathalak shook his head slowly. Instead, they dug in. They created defensive positions from almost nothing. They fought on. He showed a close-up image of human soldiers. Their faces looked exhausted. 1 day passed, then 2, then a week. Zexathalak's voice became quieter. "Our warriors required rest cycles, food cycles, normal biological needs, but the humans, they just kept fighting." The cadets looked confused. Director Vrel stepped forward. "All species need rest, Commander." "Yes," Zexathalak agreed. "But humans can push beyond normal limits in ways we cannot understand." They operated on minimal sleep. They shared the few rations they had. They treated their wounded and put them back into the fight. He showed more images. Humans looking increasingly tired but still fighting. Commander Weldon kept his forces fighting around the clock. When 1 human slept, 2 fought. They rotated in short cycles. Zexathalak's skin darkened with emotion. Our warriors began to tire. Their performance decreased, but the humans kept coming. The image changed to show Vraxian forces pulling back, retreating from positions they had held. After 3 weeks, our combat effectiveness had dropped by 60%. The humans had dropped too, but they didn't stop. Zexathalak's voice carried a note of disbelief even after all these years. They looked like walking dead. Their bodies were failing, but their will never broke. The cadets stared at the images, trying to understand. On the 23rd day, our commander ordered a retreat. 2,000 Vraxian warriors defeated by 500 humans who simply refused to accept their physical limitations. Zexathalak touched one of his medals. "I was sent with reinforcements, but we arrived too late. The base was back in human hands." A cadet in the back stood up. "But how, Commander? How could they endure such conditions?" "We learned later that humans evolved as persistence hunters," Zexathalak explained. "On primitive Earth, they didn't have claws or fangs or great strength. They hunted by chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Their bodies adapted for endurance above all else." He showed a final image of the human survivors on Europa. They looked terrible, thin, injured, exhausted, but their faces showed something the cadets recognized: victory. When we face other species, we fight until one side proves superior. When we fought humans, we learned they don't follow this rule. Zexathalak's forearms made a gesture of frustration. They fight until they physically cannot stand. Then they find a way to fight from the ground. The cadets were silent, trying to comprehend this mindset. After the Battle of Europa, our military psychologists studied human behavior, Zexathalak said. They discovered something important. Humans don't believe in impossible. When told something cannot be done, they take it as a challenge. A revenge? Why would they dedicate generations to hunting us? He gestured to the image of Lieutenant Doyle. The answer is in her words. For humans, justice is worth any sacrifice. The cadets looked at each other. Their earlier confidence was completely gone now. This psychological attack changed the war, Zexathalak concluded. Our warriors began to look over their shoulders, wondering if humans would someday appear in Vraxian space. Our leaders began to question whether victory over Earth was worth the long-term cost. The hall was completely silent now. The cadets sat frozen in their seats, trying to process everything they had learned about humans. Zexathalak looked at their shocked faces and nodded slowly. He understood their feelings. He had felt the same fear, the same confusion, when first fighting humans. After the Europa defeat, our high command was divided, Zexathalak continued. Some wanted to increase our attacks. Others suggested we withdraw from human space entirely. The Emperor was preparing to send our entire fleet to crush Earth once and for all. The image behind him changed to show a massive gathering of Vraxian warships. This was the largest battle group ever assembled in Imperial history. 500 warships, 2 million warriors. Zexathalak pointed to the image. Enough firepower to reduce Earth's surface to ash. The cadets shifted uncomfortably. They had been taught that the Empire brought civilization, not destruction. The battle group was 3 days from Earth when something unexpected happened. Zexathalak pressed a button on his wrist device. The image changed to show a single human ship approaching the Vraxian fleet. This vessel carried no weapons. It requested direct communication with our fleet commander. Zexathalak's voice softened. It carried a human called Ambassador Daniel Morgan. Director Vrel stepped forward. The humans wanted to surrender? That's what we thought, Zexathalak replied. That's what any rational species would do when faced with such overwhelming force. He showed an image of a human male with gray hair wearing formal clothes. Ambassador Morgan was brought aboard our command ship. He didn't look afraid. He didn't look defeated. Zexathalak's upper eyes narrowed. Instead, he proposed peace. The cadets looked confused. A young female in the front row spoke up. Peace? When we were about to win? Yes. Not surrender. Peace. Zexathalak emphasized the difference. He brought treaty terms, fair terms, terms that would allow both humans and Vraxians to keep their dignity. The image changed to show the first page of the treaty document. Morgan explained that humans didn't want war. They wanted justice for the destroyed space station and guarantees against future aggression. Zexathalak gestured with his lower arms. He proposed trade agreements, cultural exchanges, even military cooperation against common threats. The cadets looked at each other in confusion. This wasn't how defeated enemies behaved. Our fleet commander thought it was a trick, a delay tactic. Zexathalak's skin darkened. But Morgan had brought proof of human intentions. His ship carried detailed scans of Earth's defenses, showing that humans had developed new weapons capable of causing serious damage to our fleet. Director Vrel frowned. They revealed their military secrets? As a show of good faith, Zexathalak explained. Morgan said something I will never forget. We can fight, and many will die on both sides, or we can find a way to live together and both prosper. The choice is yours, but know that humans prefer peace when it's possible, and war only when it's necessary. The hall was silent as the cadets considered these words. Our fleet commander contacted the Emperor. For 3 days, our ships remained in position while the Imperial Council debated. Zexathalak's voice steadied. In the end, the Emperor accepted Morgan's proposal. The treaty was signed. The war ended. He showed images of the treaty signing ceremony, Vraxian and human representatives side by side. This was the most shocking thing about humans, Zexathalak said. Not their adaptability, not their endurance, but their capacity to shift from total war to sincere peace in an instant. A cadet stood up. I don't understand, Commander. After all the fighting, after preparing those vengeance vessels, they just wanted peace. Humans are contradictory, Zexathalak replied. They can be brutally violent, then surprisingly merciful. They can hate deeply, then forgive completely. He gestured to the treaty image. Ambassador Morgan told us that humans had learned from their own wars that true victory comes not from destroying your enemy, but from turning them into allies. The cadets struggled to understand this concept. In Vraxian culture, enemies remained enemies. After we destroyed their space station, humans fought with incredible fury, Zexathalak said. But once they had proven their strength, once they knew we respected them, they offered friendship instead. Zexathalak looked at the cadets. He had been speaking for hours, but not one had lost focus. Not one had looked away. They had come expecting glory stories. Instead, they had received a sobering education. I have told you about human adaptability, Zexathalak said. I have described their endurance, their psychological warfare, their civilian resistance, but I have not told you the most important thing about humans, the thing that makes them truly dangerous. The cadets leaned forward. Even Director Vrel seemed tense with anticipation. Humans are unpredictable, Zexathalak said simply. Every other species we have encountered follows logical patterns. If you study a Krell, you can predict how a Krell will behave. If you understand Dovan culture, you can anticipate Dovan decisions. He paused, looking at each section of cadets. But humans? They are living contradictions. They create beautiful art, then build terrible weapons. They fight among themselves constantly, then unite instantly against outside threats. They hold grudges for generations, then forgive mortal enemies in a single day. Zexathalak pressed a button on his wrist device. Multiple images of humans appeared. Soldiers, scientists, children, artists. Our military strategists tried to create models to predict human behavior. All failed. Zexathalak's forearms moved in a gesture of futility. Just when we thought humans would attack, they offered peace. When we expected them to surrender, they fought harder. When we believed they would take revenge, they proposed cooperation. A cadet in the middle row stood up. How can we prepare to fight an enemy we cannot predict? That, Zexathalak said, is precisely the question I want you to consider. How do you prepare for the unpredictable? The cadets looked at each other, unsure how to answer. The truth is you cannot, Zexathalak continued. No tactical training can fully prepare you for humans. No strategy is certain against them. This is why I tell you their stories today. Not to frighten you, but to warn you. He walked slowly to the edge of the stage. His voice became quieter, forcing the cadets to listen carefully. Humans are now our allies. The treaty has brought 5 cycles of peace and cooperation. But should that ever change, should humans ever become our enemies again? Zexathalak paused. Remember everything I have told you. Director Vrel stepped forward. Commander, you paint a frightening picture of humans, yet they are just one species from one small planet. Yes, Zexathalak agreed. A small planet that produced beings who refuse to accept defeat, who adapt to any challenge, who endure beyond all reasonable limits, and who can switch from war to peace in a heartbeat. He showed a final image. Earth, a blue sphere hanging in space. I commanded our forces in the final year of the war. I studied humans more than any Vraxian alive. Zexathalak's voice trembled slightly. And I tell you now, the most dangerous thing in the universe is not a planet-destroying weapon or a deadly virus. It is a human who believes they are fighting for something worth dying for. Complete silence filled the hall. The cadets sat perfectly still, their earlier excitement completely gone. They will sacrifice everything. They will attempt the impossible. They will break the rules of warfare. They will use anything and everything to achieve their goal. Zexathalak's skin darkened with emotion. And worst of all, You will never see their true capabilities until they are tested. He straightened, his posture, regaining his formal military bearing. That is all I have to share with you today, Zexathalak concluded. You came to hear about glory and conquest. Instead, I gave you warnings and caution. But these lessons may save your lives, someday, and the lives of those under your command. Director Vrel stepped forward and made the formal gesture of respect. Thank you, Commander Zexathalak. Your insights are disturbing, but valuable. Zexathalak returned the gesture. Then, without another word, he walked slowly off the stage. The metals on his chest clinked softly with each step. The cadets remained seated. No one spoke. No one moved. The images of humans, adaptive, enduring, unpredictable humans, still floated behind the empty stage. Director Vrel finally broke the silence. Class dismissed. The cadets rose and filed out silently. Their earlier confidence was gone. Their understanding of warfare had been forever changed. And deep in their minds, a new respect and fear had been planted, not for superior weapons or advanced technology, but for a species from a small blue planet who refused to accept limitations, a species called humans. Of destruction. Director Vrel stepped forward. And the treaty has held? For 5 cycles, Zexathalak confirmed. Human and Vraxian ships now patrol space together. Our scientists work on joint projects. Our cultures exchange ideas. He touched his chest where his medals hung. Ambassador Morgan now lives on Vraxia part of the year. The cadets whispered, among themselves trying to reconcile these peaceful humans with the terrifying warriors they had just heard about. This capacity to switch from war to peace, Zexathalak said, might be the most frightening thing about humans of all.